Hey, JeWeL bowling fans, Josh Lewis here for another Tips and Trick Thursday. I know it's been a few months since we last did any new content, but we've been busy opening up the Sling and Wood Pro Shop in Sky Lanes of Asheville. Regardless, we're going to be back at it, pushing out a lot of new content each and every week to help you help your game. This week, we're going to be focusing on Loft. What is Loft? Why do we use it? When do we use it? And when not to use it? So let's get into it. When we talk about lofting, a lot of times on the TV, you might see the professionals throwing the ball far down the lane. Ball's almost landing beyond the dots or even at the arrows. That's not necessarily the loft that we're talking about. While that can have its place in today's game, we're going to talk about first lofting over the first few feet of the lane and why you might do that. Well, to start with, let me just show you. In a lot of bowling centers, they don't actually oil from starting at the foul line. For safety reasons, they actually may start oiling a foot or even a foot and a half in front of the foul line, or they may even wipe the oil away from the foul line. That's to avoid you might sliding past the foul line and slipping on the oil. So what does that mean to our bowling game? Well, if you have a very clean release and at the foul line, you're laying that ball down right close. If that ball touches dry lane before it hits the oil, that ball could immediately, one, it's seeing friction, it could slow down slightly, take revolutions off the bowling ball, or even start to move left and right on the lane before it even hits the oil. So how do you combat that? You need to loft the ball over or project the ball over that dry spot. That simply means getting the ball further out on the lane. Okay? We're not talking about 4 or 5 feet. That's not necessary, typically. We're just talking about a foot and a half, 2 feet, getting the ball out. What we don't want to do when we try and project that bowling ball is hang on the bowling ball and release everything at the same time, thumb and fingers. That's a no-no. What we need to do is still use our legs, project the ball out, get your thumb out early, and then fingers around. And notice how high the bowling ball is before I'm letting go. It's here. It's not at my ankle on the foul line. I'm not saying that having a smooth release, no loft, isn't a good thing. In fact, I do that a lot. But I have to understand what the lane is giving me. If the lane is dry in the fronts, I got to get it over that dry patch. If the lane is fully oiled and I'm not worried about it, I can lay it down nice and smooth. One thing to consider, the bowling ball can't hook in the air. So while the ball is in the air, it's conserving energy, it's conserving potential motion right to left, left to right. So the other aspect of why we might want to use loft is if the lanes are getting very dry and we need to get that ball over that dry spot, over that worn spot in the oil pattern to conserve energy down lane and have that reaction that we're looking for. That's where you're going to see guys start to loft more than that foot and a half, 2 feet. That might be 3, 4, 5, 6 feet down the lane, trying to get the ball to push through that oil pattern, that worn spot, and conserve that energy. Here's a practice drill for you. We're going to grab a towel. Grab a towel, chamois, something. And it's a visual marker. Place that towel within the first foot or so of the lane. And then all we're going to do, and you can do this with your full approach, with a one-step drill, or otherwise, is work on simply choosing a point in front of that towel where you want your ball to land. And then simply lofting that ball over the towel. Okay? If you're feeling like that towel isn't quite far enough on the lane, simply move it out a little further. This is actually a really great drill to make sure that you're projecting your ball towards your target every time. Even if you're not intending to loft it, this will help you keep that ball on line, hitting your target front to back, right? We talked about your break point, talked about you bringing your eyes in towards your arrows or your dots, projecting the ball onto the lane or out onto the lane will really help you do that. That's it. Just lofting the ball over the fronts. All right, that's going to do it for this week's tips and trick video on lofting. Lofting isn't always projecting the ball halfway down the lane. Sometimes it can be a foot, 2 feet. Getting that ball onto the lane surface in front of the edge of the oil mark at your given center is going to be critical to making sure that you get the ball roll that you want. So, as always, remember to like and subscribe to JeWeL Bowling channel on YouTube. And if you haven't already, make sure that you like our Facebook page for the Sling and Wood Pro Shop at Sky Lanes of Asheville. We do post a lot of good content there as well. And we'll see you back here next week for another tips and trick video. Thanks, guys.